Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to You Champion Yourself. Who are you? I'm Chris Ferguson, your host, and it has always been a dream of mine for the last 40 years to showcase ordinary people doing extraordinary things in their lives and for others, those who have taken their dreams and ideas and turned them into their realities. Everybody has a story. Everybody's been through things, but each story is different. Each emotion that people experience is different. These people, they reach beyond their personal struggles, their personal pains, their traumas, where so many people give up and lose hope. There are the few that can walk through their obstacles and their challenges. They don't know where it's going to take them. They just trust themselves enough not to give up and do the follow through in their personal life, their career, and in relationships. This is what I call a champion in life. Today, I have an amazing lady here. We were talking beforehand, and we have a lot of dualities going on here. It's kind of funny, but I'd like to welcome Connie Jones to the podcast today. Let's find out who she is.
Hi, thank
Hi
you for
there.
having me.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure. When
Yeah.
when I saw that what you were all about, I was like, oh my gosh, this could be my twin, but just on a different level.
We totally are kindred souls. And you just in your intro, you said something else that you call people champions who have overcome. I call them warriors. And so same thing. We take our story, we do the inner work, we become who we were created to be in spite of all the struggle, and then we unleash the change in the world that we're supposed to be in that way. And it's a beautiful thing when we do that.
I
So
love that. But the thing is I've never met you before. I mean, sat down and had a conversation one-on-one. And it was like I was looking at this and I was writing notes. I wrote all kinds of notes on my paperwork here. It's like all
I
this.
do that too. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And then I kept reading, and I kept reading. And I was like, oh, wow. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is too canny.
It is. Right.
So
Yes.
I'm honored to have you here. I was so excited for this interview to happen so
Thank
that we could sit down and have this cup of coffee together and
you.
just talk.
I'm so glad. And I just hope it blesses somebody today who needs to hear it. So
It seems to work out that way. I just kind of know that, because everybody's message can mean something to somebody else.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
So if you'd like, I really would like to start with your backstory.
Yeah. Let's do it. Sounds good. I was raised so my dad was a high school football coach. My mom was a teacher in high school. And so I had in a small town in Georgia. I had, and my, they were strong Christians. So I had the religious upbringing, do this, don't do that. But it was a high performing family. So we had high expectations. I don't know if anybody that knows high school football in Georgia, it's almost like, especially if if your dad is a Christian, and like in the Baptist church too, and the deacon in the Baptist church and the whole bit, it's almost like being a preacher's kid. And so we were on stage all the time. We were my dad was kind of the hero of the community. There was one high school, everybody rallied around the high school football team, and my dad was a great leader. So he really built the program there. My brother was a star athlete coming up, and I was just a lost child. I didn't know where I was, because my mom was a high achiever. She had been an incredible athlete. She was highly intelligent. And it wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. I wasn't that driven. I was driven by different things. I was the creative. I was passionate. I was intuitive. I was a deep thinker and a deep feeler. And nobody in my family, well, come to find out later on, my dad had always had that in him, but he didn't know what to do with it. And so I helped bring it out of him later on in life, as we healed. But it was a performance-based upbringing where you do everything you're supposed to do, and you perform, you people please, you act perfect, you pretend everything's okay. whether it is or not. I became machinistic is what there's not even a word, but I call it, I use that word because I did what I was expected to do. So I was the valedictorian. I was the homecoming queen. I was the 3-sport athlete. I got a college scholarship to school, but it came at a cost, and it cost me relationships. It cost me, when you're that driven, success driven, there's no room for your heart in that. There's no room to listen to that inner guide, to that inner voice. There's no room for anything life-giving. It's all perfection and performance and achievement driven, and that's a miserable existence. But I didn't know anything else at the time. Now, I had great loving parents. They were wonderful parents. They taught me everything, gave me all kinds of great experiences. They didn't know any better. They were just doing the best they knew how to do, and it looked like my family had it all from the outside, but there was that piece missing on the inside of me. And so, long story short, in my 20s, I, once I left home, went to college and actually followed my brother to college. And we both went to this high academic, high reputation college. And we were both athletes and the whole bit. And he continued on in that image. And I couldn't do it anymore. I broke down and I had debilitating anxiety and depression. I started having some torment, some inner torment in my, it was kind of spiritual warfare. Now I see it as, it was just darkness. I didn't realize my gifts. And so my gifts became traps. And so I really, really struggled, and I thought that I was going crazy. I didn't know what was happening. Now I understand, after many years of therapy and coaching, and that I am an empath and an intuitive, and I feel things and I know things. And I was feeling the pain of the world. I was feeling I was ignoring the most powerful part of me, which was my heart and my giftings. And I had shut those off. And so my body was reacting to that, and I was sick. And so I was in dis-ease in my body. And so years went by before I realized all that. I continued to struggle, but I kind of started figuring things out. Well, I was inspired by my therapist. I started to kind of find myself in therapy and realized, oh, wow, I have a sixth sense. I see people. I know people. I see who people were made to be, and how to get them to do things, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that, like, I know how to inspire and motivate and empower them. I know how to pull the gold out of people. And I learned how to do that for myself. And so I championed myself. My inner warrior arose inside of me.
Love it.
And so I learned to do that over the years, and with lots of hard work. And as I did, I came back to who I was created to be. And then that became my life's work. I wrote a book about it, about my story, and about how I transitioned into the work that I do today, which was actually 20 years ago. I was a therapist, and I still own a group counseling and coaching practice in Atlanta, Georgia, and where there are 7 of us in practice. And but the work that I do today is I coach leaders now. I coach the business owners who want to unleash who they were made to be in the world, and do the work that they were made to do in the way that brings them joy and freedom, and allows them to listen to the most beautiful, incredible, and most powerful part of themselves, which is their heart, and build their business around that and around what matters most to them, so that they can make the impact in the world that they were created to make, with the freedom, the fulfillment, and the abundance that they were created for. And so that's the long story in the short version.
That's fine. That's fine. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. But the thing is while you were talking about the business owners, a lot of them think it's all about the hustle. It's all about the push. It's all about, I don't matter.
Right.
And then when they get out of harmony in their personal life and in their business life, they can't figure out how come it's taking a dump in the toilet.
That's exactly right. And, and what becomes our dream, or what has been our dream, becomes our nightmare. And that was in my 30s. That was my story. I loved being a therapist, and I was so inspired to do that. And I loved the work that I did, but it was the model of the business that I was set up to fail in, because even though I had come back to myself and learned to embrace my gifts and learn to become, to live out of who I am as a therapist, and live bravely, freely, and authentically me, I, I couldn't, I didn't know how to. In my mind, it was work longer, work harder, see more people, to be more successful, to help more people, to make more money, which meant self-sacrificing, which meant giving up parts of me and parts of my life, and which meant more bondage. And that didn't work for me. And so I ended up at 39 in adrenal fatigue and thyroid problems and hormone problems. And, the whole bit, again, my body was telling me something, and I didn't know what else to do. So I was living authentically, and I was doing what I felt called to do, but the way that I was doing it wasn't working for me. And I didn't know how to do anything different, because that's what everybody did. They just saw people all day, every day. And I didn't know how to pull out of myself in that way, in a business, in the business strategy way, how to do it in a way that lit my fire, and in a way that utilized the natural giftings that I have, which are teaching and coaching and empowering, and so here I was sitting in a chair all day, every day, one-on-one with people, which I loved, but I could only do that. There was a limitation to that. And I had to open myself to new solutions, to new ways, new possibilities. And so that just took me on another journey for the next, 10 years of just unleashing new, amazing, incredible things within me, and understanding new ways of doing things, and unlocking incredible abundance and impact in my business.
And well, see, most business people have this dream, but they don't research the dream and how applicable it is and if it's a good fit for society, if this is trending, if this is not trending, so they're just like, oh no, I had this dream, and this is it, and I'm going to go do it. And then within 5 years, they're falling on their face because they don't know the next steps.
That's exactly right. And they don't give themselves permission to really listen to their heart, to the voice that's guiding them inside, and they do what society tells them. They follow the strategies for success and the formulas for success, and those come at a cost. They drain us dry. And then we don't know the blocks too, mindset blocks, our programming that we have that starts at 0 to 7 years old. But most of us are bringing old, outdated programming into our businesses, and everything we're doing is coming from our being, from our 7-year-old being. And we're not realizing that programming is outdated, and that is what is setting us up for things to not work for us. And so not only do we not know what to do to change it in the model of our business and how we're doing our business, but we don't see what's blocking us and how we can get out of our own way in order to unleash what we put in us to change the world.
And I love that. I love that. But that is so true. But the thing is because you were talking about, I want to talk about your book.
Yeah.
Warrior Arise.
Yes.
That is just so powerful when you think about it. However, when you wrote this, who did you write it about?
Yeah, so it's my story, but it's everything I learned along the years for men and women who are in the struggle, the striving, and the surviving. So that was my life for so many years, in life and business. And we were made for more than struggling, striving, and surviving. We were made to thrive. We were made to thrive in our lives. We were made to thrive in our relationships, in our business, in every area. And so it weaves in my story and how I discovered that I was living out of my counterfeit warrior. One day I call him God, but whatever you call it,
Whatever,
him,
right.
whatever. Whatever that works for you. Yeah, I'm good with it. But so one day I heard in my heart, in my spirit, that I am a heart warrior. I'm a warrior for people's hearts. Well, I had thought that my heart was my liability all of my life, because that was what got in the way of everything. That was my problem. I thought, if I could just shut my heart off, I'd be good. Really, I didn't understand that my heart's my gift. And so when I understood what my purpose was, and that I'm a warrior for people's hearts, but I realized I was living out of the wrong warrior. I was living out of the counterfeit warrior that thought that I had to strive and grind and hustle and be masculine. And not that I wasn't embracing my femininity. I don't mean that, but it's that masculine energy of do, do. And all of my doing was coming out of the wrong being. It wasn't coming out of the aligned, flowing, easeful, joyful being. It was coming out of the struggling, striving, grinding, driven being that was keeping me under a ceiling, and it was exhausting me. And so I was fighting all these battles, and I was losing. And so I'm like, what is wrong? I just thought something was wrong with me. Well, what I realized is I'm just battling all of this stuff out here in the world out of the wrong warrior. That the warrior inside of me that is so powerful is the one that is in alignment with my heart and my spirit, that is in alignment, spirit, mind, and body, that comes from this place of this knowing who I am and what I was made for, and living from that power and the presence of that power, and living in ease and flow and unlocking abundance, and listening to my creativity and the magic that wants to come from me, and the brilliance, and letting that just flow out of me. That's the warrior that, it doesn't have to be so hard.
It doesn't, but our minds say we have to suffer.
Yes.
We have to penance. We have to do whatever we need to do to accomplish our dreams. And in actuality, when you talk about law of attraction, you're pushing it away.
That's exactly right.
Most people don't think about that.
We're in resistance to it. We are creating from our mind the very beliefs. Our beliefs create our frequency, and the frequency that we vibrate at in the world, we attract right back to us. And so if we have a conscious, or our subconscious programming will always overcome our conscious desire. And it doesn't matter how much we want it, how hard we work for it. If our subconscious programming is conflicting with what we desire, all we're going to get is resistance.
Yes.
All we're going to get is frustration.
Yes.
And we don't know how to function in that. And so that's what I love helping people do, is how to function out of that warrior, and how to become a warrior in your own, the warrior that you were created to be, and how to embody that and live from that place every day, where it's easy and it's flowing and it's joyful and it's fun and it's freeing and it's authentic. And and then when you are rooted in that, then you're unstoppable. You can't help but draw more impact to you. You can't help but be a change agent in the world. You can't help but draw abundance into your business and into your life. You can't help but, just shine in your brilliance. And that's the most beautiful place that any of us can be.
I love that. I have to tell you that what you don't know is that when I was working the streets in Miami-Dade and Broward County, I used to bench press 200 pounds. I had my divine masculine on lockdown, because I was a female, and I wanted everybody to know that I could handle my own.
That's it. Yes.
And so the thing was, but I could only do it 5 times, but for a woman of 160 pounds, you know what? That's really good.
Yeah.
However, the thing is that what I love about your book and what you do is that you give people the options to see themselves through a different view.
That's it.
And in that view, when I moved from Florida up here to Tennessee, I'm from Wyoming, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And when our snowblower broke, I moved to Florida, right? stayed down there for 25 years, did our whole things, raised kids, the whole 9 yards. And I said to my husband, I said, I can't stay here. I've never acclimated to Fort Lauderdale. I used to get those skin spots and stuff like that. And I couldn't sweat. That was the hardest thing I had to learn to try to do. And so he says, okay, so this was our halfway back to Wyoming. I get the 4 seasons. I get a little bit of snow, but I don't need a snowblower.
I love it.
And so in that, when I came up here to Tennessee, I said, I want to go to the police academy. I want to get post certified in Tennessee. So at 60, I went to the police academy. I graduated 12 weeks later. I wasn't the fastest. I didn't want to be the fastest, but I was the oldest in the class.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at the end of the pack either.
Yes.
And so the thing is in my life, and this is the reason why I'm bringing up what you said, is that there is nothing I can't do.
That's right.
I choose to do things, but I also choose not to do things that don't resonate with me. It doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means I choose not to do it.
That's exactly right. Because you understand, because you listen now. You listen to the voice, to the guidance within you, and you know what is in alignment with who you are and who you were created to be. Your unique blueprint design. And we all have that. And we all have the things that we love and the things that we don't enjoy and the things that, light us on fire that don't others. And if we just, there's no way to, there's not a strategy or a formula to do it all right. You have to learn to listen to within. And it tells you, your body will tell you, your heart will tell you, your spirit will tell you, and if you're living in alignment, then you feel that sense of ease in your life, and you feel the inner peace, and you feel and then you tap into joy. And then joy is just, can be overwhelming. It's so good. But not many people learn that early on. We just learn how to be. We're programmed. We learn how to be who everybody else thinks we should be, and not who we really are. And that's
you have to think of society norms, though, also, because there's people just wanting to be accepted. And I've never gave 2 hoots about who cared about me or accepted me because of my upbringing. So that kind of was a blessing in disguise.
It is a blessing.
Definitely. So when you look in hindsight, but I never put limits on myself.
Yes.
And the other thing I didn't tell you is that I was a high school girls football coach.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I love it.
For 13 years, because they had Title I, and in Title I, if they had a boys sport for football, they had to allot for a girls sport. And let me tell you what, some of these girls could put the embarrassment onto the boys, because they'd go horizontal for flags. It was hysterical. But anyway, but I loved it. But the fact is that in everything that you do, in my life, I love the fact that you recognized in your life that you weren't the status quo. You weren't that cookie cutter. Well, I was born not being that cookie cutter, and I didn't know how to do so. I didn't know anything different. So when you have these relationships and these parents and you have all this, I didn't have that. You're making decisions and you're like, okay, now what? Right. So what saved me was my empathic side.
Wow.
What saved me was, again, I had to do the shadow work. I had to get in touch with my heart because I didn't care. That was my biggest thing. I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about me. So why would I care about other people?
Right. And you bring up a great point. No matter what your story is, if it's all about healing your relationship with yourself, really, because when you heal your relationship with yourself, then you can heal your relationship with everybody else, and you can show up in the way that you truly are. So, yes, I had the programming and the upbringing that taught me to go in a direction other than that wasn't in alignment with me. You didn't have that, and you went in another direction that wasn't in alignment with who you are either in some ways. And so everybody has to come back no matter where we start. And that's the beauty of it. And that the good news is that we can
Well,
always
every day is a new day to reset.
right. Yeah. It's so incredible if we'll do the work. And I always say, people are like, oh, I've got to do the work. Oh my God, what does that mean? Well, doing the work is actually less work. It's actually less work because it's intentional work, and it's less painful, and it's less hard than the work that we're doing every day when we're living in the struggling, striving, and surviving,
Well,
or grinding.
yeah, but here's the flip side of that. They don't want to face their fears. That's why they don't want to do the fear work. They don't want to do that shadow work because they're afraid what's going to come up and the emotions they're going to have.
Right.
But I always tell my clients, hey, you got to own your junk. You have got to own your junk, whether you are a good person, a bad person, that you treated people bad, you did whatever you did. I mean, I was a street kid.
Yeah.
And the thing is society norms judged me, accused me, and labeled me as a juvenile delinquent because I was in an orphanage. So the fact is that at that point in time, who was I going to care about? So going back to that, it wasn't until at 16, I started practicing shamanic practicing.
Wow.
And I have been in it 46 years now. That's what saved my life because I hated organized religion. I mean, I saw John F. Kennedy get killed on TV. I saw Martin Luther King get killed. I saw Bobby Kennedy get killed. I saw the craziness of the 60s. And if people nowadays understood the society norms that were back then, that a lot of people had to live under.
Yes.
And how religions are very dominating in people's lives.
Yes, they do a lot. Well, religion, I know I did a lot of damage in my life. I didn't understand. I had all religion and no relationship. I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't have not a real one. I didn't have it with my own self. I didn't have it with my heart. I mean, I didn't have it with other people because there was no authenticity there. There was no connection, and it was competition and drivenness and achievement, and that's abusive, and so I totally had to find my spirituality, my own, from within, and
once you achieve that inner peace, and I think that's the word you're looking for. And when you achieve that inner peace, let's talk about the mindset blocks that happen in people, because that has a lot to do, because we do more harm to ourselves than any other human being can do to us. Because of our inner chatter when we listen to it.
That's it. And I actually talk about how this is formed in the book. We have a protector self. We have our inner child, and our inner child is our most innocent, creative, playful, spontaneous, our true self. And we all have that inner child still in us. And we have to learn how to parent that inner child in a way that is loving and nurturing and kind and compassionate. But we don't learn that. We learn how to protect ourselves in survival. And so we have this protective mechanism that comes up from us that becomes our inner critic. And I had a vicious one. I mean, she was vicious and she tried to kill me many times. And just abused me all day, every day, at all the other times. And so we have to understand what our protective mechanisms are and what those beliefs are that keep us stuck in the life that we were not created to live in the life that is hard and frustrating and exhausting. And so the protective mechanisms become our programming. They become our mindsets. They become the belief system that runs our life, and from which we make our decisions and take action. And oftentimes those protective mechanisms are based in fear and self-doubt and unworthiness, which is shame, of course, and
embarrassment,
lack and all the things. They're all those lower level emotions, those lower level frequencies that cause us to feel dense and heavy and to feel stuck and to stay stuck. And we don't understand. We try to outdo that mindset, but our, like I said, 95% of the reality that we are living is that, is created by our subconscious mind. And so all that's being reflected in your reality right now is everything that you're believing about yourself and believing about what's possible for you and what's available to you. And so we have to go into our programming and understand, oh gosh, like this is what is running me and how's this serving me? And if it's not, really all of our beliefs are human constructs that somebody made up at some point. And so
or a saying, or
exactly,
color between the lines.
something that we saw,
right? Get out,
something
get
we're
to thinking outside of the box. Well, there's never been a box. It was
right.
those limiting beliefs.
Exactly. We don't have any idea that we're creating our own box. And so we can shatter that. We can move through that and I call it breakthrough. We can break through that. We just have to know what, number one, what is running us, first of all, and then understand how is it serving us and why are we continuing to hold on to that? And and how is that story misaligned with what I want to create in my life? And if that story is misaligned, then I need to change my story.
But isn't it, I don't mean to cut you off, but let's talk about the excuses we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about what we do.
Oh, totally.
And our behaviors.
And that's survival too. It's just all about us staying in what's familiar and comfortable because it feels safe. And that's a survival mechanism. Of course, it's not wrong. We're not bad people. We just are living in survival. And we have to understand that there's going to be resistance there that wants us to stay in that smaller thinking and in that smaller living so that everything can just stay as is. That feels safe. But we can, and that's where those excuses protect that safe, comfortable space. But we can change those. And it's not, as well as I do. I mean, I'm sure you had help in your journey. I mean, it's too hard to do ourselves. It's too hard to we have to do some of it ourselves. I mean, nobody can do it for us, but I needed someone to do it with me because it was so hard to change my programming and to see what I couldn't see for myself and to understand what blocks I had and, to somebody to ask the powerful questions to help me see things that I needed to see in order to break through. What is that resistance in me, and to challenge those things. And now that's what I help people do.
And I love that. But I see, the thing is as a kid, I didn't have that. I didn't have that support. But luckily enough for me, I had some amazing spirit guides that walked with me since I was 4. My first near-death experience was at 4. Wow. The second one was at 16. And the third one was in 2012. I had 2 pulmonary embolisms, one in each lung. And they don't know why. And so the fact is that no matter what you walk through, those lessons, those experiences, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what's the lesson here?
What's the lesson? That's it. What can I, it's the curiosity. If we don't go into the judgment and we stay in curiosity, it unlocks things that's amazing. And, it's interesting that you said that, again, call it the universe, call it God, whatever, you didn't have parents the way that you needed to. You didn't have the support that you needed, but you had your spirit guides. We are going to have everything that we need one way or another to become who we were created to become.
And see, I live by that. I have such a strong faith in that. I mean, I've cursed out the creator. My dad was Native American. My mother's white. So, I mean, I've literally called him everything a sailor could call another sailor. And it's one-on-one and real, raw, and rare. And
Absolutely.
It's like, he just laughed at me, and that would piss me off even more. So, I was this thick-headed kid. So I learned from my lessons. And he gave me some pretty trying lessons, but I'm like, okay, what's next now, dude? I don't have 9 lives. What's next? So that's been my story for 63 years now. It's like, what's next? But it's all about being of service.
That's it. Yes.
And I wanted to go back to relationships because most people don't realize is that when you're harmonized in yourself and you have an authentic relationship with yourself, you teach other people how you want to be treated.
That's
You
right.
teach other people about how you're not going to tolerate their bad behavior or their excuses. So those lower vibes fall away. And when you said that, I just got full body chills. I was like, this is my clone. This is
I
I'm
know.
looking in a mirror right now saying, oh my gosh, this is what I do.
Yes, it's incredible work. It is, and I always say that we are here, every one of us, in the way that we do it is maybe completely different, but the what we were given, what was put in us is our whole purpose is to awaken to what's in us and who we are, and so that we can awaken that in others in the world. And it's all about the awakening, and it's all about um, living in the fullness and the authenticity of that. And when we do that, there is no greater peace, and there is no greater sense of joy. And and then there is no better way to serve and to love people when we're using what we have in us to be of service, to awaken what's in other people. And that's what I love.
It's the message. It's the message. Because no matter what you've been through, no matter what I've been through, it's that message. So I would really like to talk about seeing and understanding and unlocking the intuition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great one. The intuition is our magic. It is our wise guide. It is the part of us, the small voice, the quiet. Sometimes it's very powerful. Especially if we ignore it, it sometimes becomes a roar. And yeah, it's the voice of knowing. It's the knowing. And I hear people say, all the time, if I had just trusted myself. I knew at the time, but I didn't listen.
Or you second guessed yourself.
Or you second guessed. That's right. Yes, absolutely. I listened, but I said, "Oh, they know better," or I don't really have a choice. I have to do that, or but we do. That is put in us as our guide. And it is something that it's a skill, it's a practice that we have to hone. Some of us are naturally intuitive, so we hear it clearly, we feel it clearly, and if we don't listen, we get really. I know for me, if I'm not in alignment and attuned and not listening, there is no harmony, no peace, no nothing, and I'm going to get sick. Like I'm going to get physically sick really quickly. Some people aren't as intuitive, and that's not their gift, but everybody has it. But if we do ignore it for long enough, there will be a cost. And it may be in some physical manifestation in our body. It may be cancer. It may be adrenal stuff. It may be anxiety. It may be, we might need to drink to, shove it down. Whatever it is, we learn to cope. And all we're doing is closing that voice. We're just putting that voice farther and farther and farther. And I attribute it to like burying yourself alive is what you're doing.
Or becoming a walking time bomb is what I call it. Because this is why people get to points with depression and think that life owes them something.
That's it.
And if you think life owes you something, you need to go back to stage one and think about, what does life owe you? You were brought into this world naked. You're going to go out of this world naked. It's what you make your life of in the meantime.
That's exactly right.
You can stay in victimhood all you want, but how is that going to serve you? Or you can become that perpetrator, because I see everything as a pyramid. And so either side, you can be victimhood or perpetrator, because you're either going to be oppressed by as the victimhood, staying in it, or the perpetrator is going to keep looking for more victims. Or you can climb up that pyramid to the top. And I say, as you say, champion yourself or warrior rise. And so when you didn't realize that it's the same words, it's just different.
Yeah.
The meaning is same.
It's exactly the same. That is so, so true. Oh gosh. Yeah. Which is what I was, my heart and my spirit was drawn when I don't even, like remember like how I even, we were connected, but like when I saw what you're doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was totally drawn to it because my heart knew you. I knew, I knew you. I knew what you were doing. And I felt that. And it's just a beautiful thing. Oh, so beautiful.
It is, but the thing is we have a lot of parallels. A little
Mhm.
bit different, but we have a lot of parallels.
No
And
doubt.
what most people don't realize is if you don't heal that inner child,
Right.
regardless of what you went through, you take that inner child into your adulthood, and that inner child is still hurt, and you become that adult that's hurt.
That's exactly right. Yes. And then in all of your interactions, in your relationships, in your business, in your life, in your finances, every situation, your inner child is driving your bus. And
Mhm.
imagine like, and I just remember when I finally took my inner child out of the driver's seat of my bus in my life and how freeing that was for her. She was exhausted from
Mhm.
trying to, this wounded child and this scared child trying to live a grown-up's life and run a business, and it just doesn't work. She's not, she's my creative, playful, spontaneous, loving, nurturing part. She's the wise and the intuitive part of me, but like the emotional part of me, but I don't need her to drive the bus. And so, it's, and oftentimes I see this constantly, or I used to see this. I don't anymore, but I used to, but I still hear from it. And with our other therapists here, that people go into their marriages, and oftentimes they get into conflict in their marriages or their relationships, and it's because they're arguing and they're doing conflict from their critical parent or their inner child. And one's in critical parent and one's an inner child, or one's in critical parent and one's an inner child, and they just butt heads
Mhm.
constantly, and they just keep doing more damage and more pain, offer more, inflict more pain on each other, and they don't realize that, what they're triggering in each other, and that it's just unhealed stuff that, if they would take a step back and really look at, all right, what's being triggered, and look at the what that's representing as the lesson that they need to learn, and what needs to be healed inside, then everything changes.
Yeah, I also I teach about triggers. I have a 4-week program that I
Yeah.
teach about triggers, and I teach part of it is the communication. And the thing is once you realize your triggers, you start understanding why you're not listening, and you're listening to be defensive in response.
That's right.
And so the fact is that if you say something I don't like, all of a sudden I'm not hearing anything else you're saying.
Nope.
I'm stuck on that one word. And even though you've
That's it.
defined it and explained it, I didn't hear it.
That's exactly right. There's a block. There's a, like, it's coming through my filter of fear or pain or whatever. And it's not going to get through my filter any other way. My filter is going to twist it, and I'm going to hear what I need to hear, what I'm used to hearing, which is the lie that I believe about me, or whatever you just said. I'm going to turn it around in a way that matches my belief system, or matches that woundedness in me. And that's our filter, and every single one of us has a filter, and we don't, until we take a look at how we're, what has created our filter, and begin to shift that. If it's not working for us, then we'll stay stuck in frustration.
Absolutely. And I think there's more people in the world. And the one thing I've learned over life, and I love the way you said that, was that in communication, it's not what you say, it's what they perceive.
That's it. Perception is reality.
And
Mhm.
so the thing is I could say, Connie, you're an amazing individual, but the hair up or whatever, and all you heard is the hair up, and you're like, okay, I was in a hurry, I was in a rush, but all you heard is the hair up, and you're now like, oh my gosh, you're
Yeah,
calling me out, woman.
I'm triggered. Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's not at all, most of the time. Most
Right.
often it is not at all what they're and what they're intending, or not even about you, whatever. And,
Mhm.
but we just go there and we make it about us, and it just keeps us stuck. It's, it is, it's unbelievable how powerful it is. Our mind is so, so powerful.
But our thoughts are powerful. Our words are powerful. I remember hearing this a riddle. It was sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. But names hurt you as bad as the sticks and stones. The
Yes,
sticks and stones only leave a physical. The words leave an emotional.
and
And
emotion.
it's just as deep. And most people don't realize that. So it's not only our words, but it's our actions and it's our thoughts.
That's exactly right. Yes. And we need healing. Our hearts need healing and our minds need reprogramming, just like our physical hurts and wounds need healing. It's the same thing. But we don't hesitate to heal the physical wounds, but
Mhm.
the emotional ones and the emotional mind, the mindsets and the programming, we don't think a second about that. We just keep right on going, and don't realize that it's causing more damage and more damage and more damage, and really, um, causing all kinds of problems that we can't see.
And absolutely. And I totally, totally agree with everything you've said. I'm just blown away because it's like, okay, I'm seeing a mirror of me and we have the same understandings. We have the same responses. We have, different viewpoints to how we got here, but we still have the same viewpoints.
Totally. Yeah, it's
But I'd
amazing.
like, is there 3 tips you could give my audience that they could do today to feel better today?
That's so good. Yes, that's a great question. The thing that I always come back to the heart as the first thing. And so I would say the very first thing that I would encourage you to do is to just give yourself permission just for a moment to get still and quiet and to quiet the noise. And that may take a little while. That may take some time. But if you do nothing else but focus on quieting the noise in your mind so that you can hear what your heart needs to say, listen to what your heart wants you to know that needs to shift. That's what's hurting, what doesn't feel comfortable, what's exhausting, what's draining you, what do you really need and want. And if you listen to that and you'll honor that, and then you may not know how to get it, and that's okay, but if you honor it and you ask, okay, and just be curious about, how can I get more of that, how can I get what I really need, how can I be more of who I really am every day, and just start being that and listening and following that guide. That's the first step. The second step is releasing what's no longer serving you.
Mhm.
So, is there something that you want to say yes to or want to say no to that you've said yes to, that's exhausting you? Is there something that you're tolerating in your life that you're not really okay with? And get honest with yourself about that. And then, and then ask, how can I, it may feel overwhelming and you may need help with this, and that's okay. You can ask for help. But how can I make the shift where I no longer have to participate in this if it's not working for me, if it's not okay? And then I love helping people really ask their heart, what is it that I want more of? How can I live in a way that is more authentic, that is more in alignment? How can I grow my business? How can I do my work in a way that is more nurturing and loving and kinder to me? How can I be kinder and more accepting of who I am? And there's just so much healing that comes out of that. And so those are just the very basics. Those 3 points are really, really, really basic. But if you've been detached and you've been disconnected for so long, it might take a little while to come back to that, but that's the place we need to start.
And I agree, yes, because a lot of people don't love themselves. They don't practice self-care. They don't have themselves as a priority. They don't know their value. They don't know their worth.
Exactly.
And so in that, they may seem basic, but for other people, it might be a football stadium away.
Absolutely. And it's, again, okay, whoever it is, to ask for help, or to just, you know what, if nothing, if the place that you need, if that's so overwhelming, and all you need to do is get started by just journaling that and answering one of those questions, start there and let it unfold. Let the work unfold for you. It is not something you have to dive headfirst into and try to do all in one breath or one day.
And I agree. I agree. I love that. And I also tell people, and when you did what you did that you didn't like, it was because you didn't know better.
That's exactly. When you know better, you'll do better.
So don't be ashamed about it.
Yes.
Now you know, don't do it again.
That's it. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know yet. But now that you know, do differently. But forgive it. Forgive yourself and move into grace and self-compassion over that.
Absolutely. But you have to, if you want better, you have to be better. And so that's on you.
That's it. That's right.
So wow. Young lady, sit back, relax. Take a deep breath in. We're going to go to your inner child. And we're going to have you ask her how she feels about how far you've come in your world.
You want me to do that now?
Yeah. Let's do it.
I love my little girl. I have communication with her a lot. And you know, she just wants me to know that, like, I knew all along. I always knew. It was there all along, because I was there all along. And that if I just continue to trust that this journey of becoming that I'm on, it's just going to get better and better and better. And all I have to do is be me and trust that I'll have everything that I need in order to do that in the perfect timing, in the perfect amount when I need it. And that feels good. And I trust that.
Wow, Connie, that's amazing. The thing is the part that I got, just because I'm extremely empathic, was that she said, you know what? No matter how much of a rebel you were, you had a core belief.
That's right.
And that core belief is what guided you.
That's exactly. Yes.
And that when you figured a road and all of a sudden it says go left or go right, you were like, no, I'm going straight.
You knew all along. You knew all along, because your guide, your intuition, your heart, your path, it was there all along. You were there all along. We just didn't know. We weren't home. We weren't completely home, but we knew all along.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Connie, I honor you and I thank you for being here today. Hang on just a second. It takes a special kind of individual to dream their dreams, their thoughts, and their ideas, and turn them into the reality. And Connie Jones, you stepped past all the fears. You stayed the course. You had the courage to do the follow through to the end. Even if you didn't know where you were going, you still trusted yourself. Connie Jones, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and your dreams with us today about how we can all be better human beings.